So if you change the environment inside the cell, change the pH inside the cell, you give different signals to the genes, signals that maybe you don't want to be giving. Toxins do the same thing. You're putting all these toxins, all these chemicals into the cell every minute of every day, and every time you brush your teeth, and every time, those give signals to the genes, and they're giving signals you don't want to be giving. So, and I have a whole chapter in all of my books on the genetic chapter. So, and it explains what you have to do to manage your genes properly. Stop damaging them, and then manage them properly. Stop giving them signals that you shouldn't be giving them, and then the genes will do their job. You know, a single gene can produce like 25,000 different protein molecules. And every protein molecule does something special in the body. So how does it know which one to produce and when? Well, you tell it. But you start telling it to produce funny molecules, it's going to do it. And then you're sick. So genes run your life, but you run the genes. And yeah, there's about maybe 3%, maybe 5% of the genes that run you. And you can actually have a true genetic disease. But even a genetic disease is caused by deficiency and toxicity, because when that gene malfunctions, it's either not producing something it should produce, which is deficiency, or it is producing something it should not be producing, which is toxicity. So even in a genetic disease, you always come back to the two causes of all disease, deficiency and toxicity. And if you properly address the deficiency and toxicity, you can cure, or I should say, not necessarily cure, but you can live with the genetic, I don't know if anybody, that was a long time ago, Lorenzo's oil. Everybody know about Lorenzo's oil? Little Lorenzo was dying of a genetic disease, and the doctor said there's nothing can be done. And his father went out and found out that this particular genetic disease, the gene wasn't producing a particular kind of oil, and so you die. So he gave his son the oil. So here he had a fatal genetic disease. He gave his son the oil, and it saved his son's life. And the last I knew, the son was, 55 years old or something, and still going strong. So even a genetic disease is, you can handle it if you properly address the deficiency and toxicity. Okay, I think the question is about nerve cells and inflammation, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Well, a cell is a cell is a cell. And yes, we have differentiated cells. We have cells, nerve cells, and we have skin cells, and we have muscle cells, and that's nice, but they're all cells. And even though they're differentiated, they have a grocery list. And the same thing goes well, deficiency and toxicity. And we need to protect the entire body from inflammation. Inflammation is a major cause of, well, all disease involves inflammation and oxidative damage. So the first thing to do is always make sure that person is getting enough antioxidants. And if you're sick with an inflammatory disease, you may need gargantuan quantities of anti-inflammatories in order to shut down that process. Even intravenous vitamin C or something like that to shut down the inflammatory process in the body. I personally take 16,000 milligrams of vitamin C per day, and that helps to keep me in the health that I enjoy. Helps keep my arteries clean. Helps to, I've only had, in the past 31 years, I've had 3 health problems. I had 3 colds. And there's no excuse for having a cold. It's irresponsible, and yet people have them. Well, it's a pretty dumb idea because it's a serious disease from which you never ever recover. When you have a cold, you produce a flood of free radicals. Those free radicals damage DNA. Not all the DNA gets repaired, so you end up with DNA damage. And as you know, as you accumulate DNA damage, that makes you old and it makes you sick. So every time you get a cold, you get older and sicker. So that's a pretty bad idea. And it's easy to prevent. There's no excuse why anybody should have a cold. I had 3 colds in the last 31 years, but I have an excellent excuse for each one. Yeah.
A negative belief creates a negative health effect, and that includes the idea that we have defective genes. It's commonly known, it's proven science, it is the nocebo effect. If all of you have heard of the nocebo effect, it's proven science. Negative belief creates negative health effect.
Absolutely. And he's talking about the negative effects of negative thinking, which we know from excellent studies have an enormously negative effect on your health. And in each of my books, I have a whole chapter on that, the mental chapter. What you eat, what you drink, has a profound effect on your health. But what you think may be even more important than anything else. So the brain runs your biochemistry, and every thought has a biological consequence. You have to understand this. It is not possible to have a thought without a biological consequence. And negative thoughts have negative biological consequences, and positive thoughts of loving and caring have very positive biological consequences. So just as you have to be careful about what you eat and what you drink, you have to be careful about what you're putting upstairs, because I had one lady, she had cancer, she came to me with cancer, and turns out 20 years earlier she had a very, very nasty divorce. And for the last 20 years, every single day didn't go by when she didn't replay that movie in her brain. So she was putting all that stress, all that negativity into her body every single day for the last 20 years, and then she wonders why she has cancer. Well, that's what. Another question.
Yes. What do you eat on a daily basis?
That's a great question.
My diet is so varied. People say, what do you have for breakfast? Well, this morning I had an omelet, a vegetable omelet. Sometimes I just have fruit and nuts. Sometimes I'll have a salad. It just varies all over the map. But the common denominator is I try as much as possible, and again, it's not possible to be perfect, don't have to be perfect, but as much as possible, I try to eat organic foods and plant foods, raw, organic plant foods. So that's what I strive for.
Are you a vegetarian?
No, I'm not a vegetarian. I just had an omelet for breakfast.
Well,
Yeah. So, the amount of animal protein in my diet is small.
That's what I'm thinking.
And my friend Colin Campbell, who did very excellent research on that and wrote the China study, found that Americans eat far too much animal protein, and that animal protein in excess of what you need every day to do daily repairs will cause cancer. Okay, I think, I'm over time. So,
What is the best form in relation to protein? Are you taking grams per your weight or your height? So what is the amount of this form?
what your body needs,
How do you know that?
it's something called bowel tolerance. You just keep going up and up and up and up until you reject it with diarrhea. And then you come down to where you don't have diarrhea. That's what your body wants.
You're saying that for protein?
Oh, for protein, excuse me. I thought it was vitamins. for protein. How much does, oh, well, if you eat a good plant-based diet, and include things like legumes and pulses, you'll get enough protein. I don't worry about protein. I just don't. I just eat. I don't worry about the protein. I don't try to measure things, actually. It's just, and it's not something I want to do. People, count calories, do this, do that. To me, it just is unnecessary complication. It's just eat good stuff. And Mother Nature takes care of, primitives didn't have to worry about it. They just ate stuff. and they were in good health. So do the same, eat stuff, but make sure it's high quality stuff. There you go. Thank you all for being here. Thank you very much.